So without further ado, can we give the round of applause again to Prof. Gupta? Yeah, please give the round of applause, the big applause. Okay, and thank you so much. Yes, time is yours. Please.
Okay. So in November 2022, something amazing happened. For the first time, humans interacted with an alien intelligence. So, unfortunately, it didn't quite look like this. It looked a bit more like this. All right.
Recording in progress.
So we had a company. You probably, you guys use AI, right? You know what I'm talking about. ChatGPT. Yeah. Okay. So Sam Altman, OpenAI, they released ChatGPT, and even though it's something that isn't conscious, it's intelligent, right? It can talk to us in a way that other humans can talk to us. It can answer questions. It can write us a love poem, right? It can do things that we can't distinguish the AI from another human. But when it first came out, when ChatGPT first came out, it was a bit of a toy. So, you can chat with it and you can ask it questions, but most of the time, if you gave it a hard question, it will get the answer wrong, or it will tell you an answer and it just wouldn't make any sense. But things have changed very dramatically in the next 3 years. Now it can do things that many researchers do, right? It can solve problems that an academic in a university is solving. So this led Sam Altman, the head of OpenAI, to come up with this comment. ChatGPT won't replace you, but someone using ChatGPT will. Now, there's a lot of people worried about AI taking their jobs, and certainly AI is going to take some jobs. But for a lot of you, I think it's this that you've got to be worried about, right? If you're not using AI, you'll be less productive. You won't be able to work as fast. You won't be able to work as well. So that means you're going to have to use AI if you want to be competitive. But there's another quote, and this one's by me. AI can make you smarter, but it can also make you dumber, right? And what that means is that we can use AI to do things that we should be doing, and we lose our skills at doing it, or we never learn those skills. So we become worse off than we were before. And this is really important, especially for you guys that are undergraduates, right? You're the first generation to grow up with this thing. And I don't know what the situation is over here, but I know in Australia, I see lots of students using it to write their assessments, write their essays, and they're losing skills, but they're getting great marks because we can't tell the difference between an AI and the student. So they get really good marks, and then what happens? They go out and they try and get a job, and the people that are interviewing them for a job, they're not stupid. They think, oh, well, how do I know that the grade that he's got, this person has got an A grade, but how do I know that that's real? How do I know that they didn't just use AI to get that A grade? So they're going to test you. They're going to test you without a computer when you go to go for a job interview. And if you can't answer the questions, if you can't do the tasks, they'll know that you were just using AI. So you've got to be very, very careful when you're using this AI and using it in the right way. So I'm going to split this talk into 3 parts. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about what is AI, what is generative AI, why is it accelerating so fast, why is it getting better so quickly, some of the challenges, some of the risks of AI. Then I want to talk a little bit about some of the applications, some of the things I use AI for, right? And maybe it's different to the things that you are using it, and maybe you'll learn a few new things. And then part 3, I think, is the most interesting. It'd be great to hear some of your opinions of AI. Right? I'd really like to know how you're using AI. Are you worried about AI? Do you think it's the best thing in the world? You know, I'd really like to hear what you're thinking. So I tried to write a list of all the things that AI is good for in an academic environment, right? So if you're an undergraduate, maybe you use it to write essays or assignments, or to give yourself problem sheets that are like your exams so you can practice on the exams. And, you know, maybe the top one isn't a very good use of AI, but you may be still doing it. You can use it to translate from another language. So when I'm doing my classes in Australia, you know, most of my students are international, and lots of them, you know, are sitting there with AI open, and they're translating immediately as I'm talking. They're translating, or I give them a worksheet and they're immediately translating. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? It's good because it means that they can understand what I'm saying, but it's bad because it means that they're not learning English, which is why they come to Australia to study in the first place. We can use it in an academic environment to look through literature, to do critical literature reviews, and it does a pretty good job at doing that. It's extremely good at teaching, right? So if you don't understand something, if you don't understand a concept, AI is an infinitely patient teacher. It will be there when your teacher is at home in bed, and you can ask it questions, and it will give you example after example. It will make it as simple or as hard as you want. It will put it into a way that you understand. It can be an excellent teacher. It's good for suggesting techniques to use, right? So you've got some data, you don't know what to do with the data, so you ask ChatGPT, you know, what can I do with this data? What hypotheses can I test? What kind of analysis methods can I use to look at this data in a clever way? We can use it as a sounding board. I think this is one of my, you know, best use cases. What that means is that I can use it as someone to argue with. So I'm writing a new paper on some subject. I want to do a paper on the effect of marine heat waves on kelp. And I've got some idea of what this paper is going to be about. So I put it in ChatGPT and I ask it, you know, do you think this is a good idea? Where do you think I'm missing ideas? Where could I improve? And I have a discussion, a back and forth with AI, trying to improve my ideas. You know, this is another really important one, coding. I don't know how many of you do coding, but AI is designed to be a very, very good coder. It can do a lot of coding tasks that humans can now do. Any of you know Claude, Anthropic Claude? Any of you use that? Sort of the head of, it's another company like OpenAI. They now use 90% AI to write the code to build the next AI. You know, the top AI, the top coding companies in the world are using AI now to do their coding. And then, you know, you guys that are writing papers, it's really good at peer review. So before I send my paper out to be published, to get reviews, I send it to ChatGPT and say, can you review this for me? Can you find all the mistakes that a reviewer is going to find so I get less comments back from my reviewer? Super useful. And because it's so useful, because it can do so many things, that's where Sam Altman's comment came from, right? Because it can do so many things, it can do these things so quickly, it means that if you don't use AI to do some of these things, or to help you do some of these things, you're going to get left behind. And you're going to be not competitive compared to someone who is using it, or is at least someone who's using it right. Okay, so we've got all these things it can do, but that leaves a couple of really big challenges for us, for you guys and for academics, for us. The first one is, how can we use AI without losing our skills or without taking away the learning of new skills, right? If it is coding for us, if it's doing all our coding, then we don't learn how to code. And this becomes really important because if we don't know how to code and the AI gives us some code, how do we check whether the code is right? We don't know how to check it because we've never gone through the process of having to check our own code. So this is kind of a negative. How do we stop losing our skills? But a positive is how do we use AI to become better learners and better researchers? So I think that if we use AI in the right way, we can actually become smarter and we can become better. It's not just about being faster at doing things, but you can learn more. Because you have a teacher always there at hand, and because you have someone who knows or something that knows about lots of different subjects, when I'm writing something and I want to have something from a different discipline, I want to have something from microbiology, or I want something from astrophysics, or I want something from economics, I now don't have to go and try and find an expert to help me with that. I've got an AI that can give me information about that and help me learn about things outside my field. So I'm going to come back to this a little bit later, to these challenges. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what generative AI is. So in simplest terms, AI is a statistical model that predicts the next word. So imagine I've got a sentence like, the cat sat on the. Now the AI system has to predict the next word. How does it predict the next word? Well, you could do that, right? You could go to a bunch of books and you could find all the times in the book where it says the cat sat on the. And you look at what the next word is. And you do a frequency distribution of what the next word is, right? And very rarely will the next word be carrot, right? The cat sat on the carrot doesn't come up very often. But the cat sat on the chair comes up quite often. And the cat sat on the mat comes up the most often. So what your statistical model will do is will look through and says, what's the most likely next word to be on this list? Well, based on this distribution, it's probably mat. So the cat sat on the mat. Now, once it's done that, the AI system now looks for this. The cat sat on the mat, and it has to predict the next word from that. So it will go through and it'll look at all the cases where it found the cat sat on the mat, and it tries to predict what the next word is. Well, there's quite a lot of words that it could be, right? It could be the cat sat on the mat in the, or by the, or when. And so now the AI has to choose which one of these is it's going to pick. And sometimes it doesn't pick the most or the highest frequency one. Sometimes it moves a little bit away from the peak of the distribution. And why it does that is because if it always picked the peak, then the answer would be very, very boring. Every answer would give you the same result. So sometimes it adds a bit of randomness, and so it picks some of these things slightly to the side. So the cat sat on a mat in the laboratory of a physicist, right? But now, try and think about how often you would find this, even if you searched the whole internet. That phrase would probably never come up in the whole internet. So what is the AI system now doing? It can't create a probability distribution because it never finds that, right? The cat sat on is in lots of places on the internet. The cat sat on the mat in the laboratory of the physicist probably doesn't exist anywhere. So the AI system can't go any further until they scale it up. So scaling it up means that you have lots and lots of information to train your AI system on, the whole of human knowledge. You have a very, very big brain, so your statistical model becomes very, very large. So an AI brain is kind of like our brain. It's got lots of neurons in. And the AI models these days have hundreds of billions of neurons in their brain. And we have to have lots and lots of computing power.